Good evening. This is Darren Nolan from Graduation Alliance, and this study session is Fitness for Life, Semester 1. We're going to be talking about Unit 5 Training Principles. It is Tuesday, September 11th, and just giving you an update, I will be presenting every other week, every 2 weeks at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're interested in showing up, it's a half-hour session when there are people here from 5:30 to 6 p.m. So tonight I'm going to cover information that will be helpful for you when you're completing the Unit 5 5.11 activity discussion question. We're going to talk about what are the 9 different training principles. So the lesson objectives for tonight are, for Unit 5, are to choose exercises that are best for you and learn how to overcome obstacles are the main 2 lesson objectives for Unit 5. So we talk about different benefits of exercise. Obviously, there are many different benefits of exercise. This is just a list of 6 different ones. Building strong bones helps your heart work more effectively, keeps your body in great shape, helps you avoid health problems, helps you sleep better, and also can be helpful with dealing with stress. It's a great outlet if you're stressed out. So talking about principle number 1, we call this the overload principle. And the definition is the increasing amount of stress you put on your body is overload. So we do this by adjusting one of the following factors. It can be the frequency, could be the intensity, or it also could be the duration of the activity you're doing. So the example given is if you walk a mile every day, it's probably not physically exhausting, but if you run up a mountain, your body will get tired. That run just overloaded your system. If you keep running up the mountain every day, your body will adapt and it will no longer be so tired. One great way to monitor your overload is if you could get a hold of a heart rate monitor. It's a great way to tell whether or not you're exercising in the right zone. And you'll learn in section 5.2.1, you learn how to figure out what your target heart rate is. And heart rate monitor is just an awesome tool. I use them in my brick and mortar school, and it helps students know whether they need to increase the overload principle or they need to decrease based on where their heart rate is. Training principle number 2 is your frequency. And this one here by definition is the number of training sessions per week. So for example, lifting. Hello, Shirley. Hi, Shirley. Can you hear me okay?
For some reason.
There you are. How's it going? I'll go ahead and continue here. So training principle number 2 is frequency. Example would be lifting weights 5 days a week instead of 3 days a week. So increasing how frequently you're exercising. We use the term regularity is closely linked to frequency of training. So adaptations will only be achieved if training is regular. So it's important to keep a regular training schedule if you want to see benefits from the exercise that you're doing. It has to be a consistent and regular exercising of muscles and energy systems if you want to improve. So that is training principle number 2, frequency. Training principle number 3 relates to intensity, which is the level of difficulty of your workout. For example, instead of walking leisurely, walk at a faster pace with a stroller, for instance, or up a hill. So try to increase the intensity. You can also increase weight if you're lifting weights. And so it's just about making whatever you're doing a little more difficult. And so there's an intensity scale that I'm showing right here that some people can use. And you can kind of rate your intensity as a scale of 1 to 10, from maximum down to easy. So again, heart rate monitors are a great tool for trying to monitor your intensity when you are training. Training principle number 4 relates to duration. And this is the length of time we train, the time of stimulation. Example, instead of playing soccer for 60 minutes, you could increase the duration by 20 minutes and go for 80 minutes. By manipulating duration and intensity, we can overload the systems and make adaptations. As fitness increases, duration needs to increase if you wish to improve. So as we get into better shape, better condition, then you want to start increasing the duration of your workouts. Without it, adaptations, improvements will slow down or cease. This means the athlete needs to devote more time to training. Training principle number 5 is progression, which the definition is moving forward through a sequence to gradually build up the body. And the example given is it's not a good idea to start at the black belt level in karate if you've never done it before. You have to start with the beginning levels and work up to being a black belt. So with the principle of progression, you're going to increase your workload progressively for maximum improvement and to prevent any injuries. So you don't want to strain muscles. So oftentimes we get people that get excited about starting a new workout, especially in the New Year's when people have New Year's resolutions of wanting to get out and exercise, and then they go too hard to start. They get burned out and they stop their program. So it's important that you ease into whatever fitness program that you're planning to do. Training principle number 6 is specificity. The definition of this is improvements will only be seen in the areas that you work on. So being specific about what you want to improve. If you're training to run a 5K, then you'll need to specifically work on running a 5K. So the exercise or training specific to the muscle groups and the energy systems used by an individual. So also includes the fitness components and skills needed. Examples, weightlifting, anaerobic fitness, and strength are vital for weight training. If you're a diver, anaerobic fitness, flexibility, balance, power, coordination, moderate strength. And if you happen to be a marathon runner, aerobic fitness, muscular endurance, and cardiovascular endurance would be specificity. Those would be areas that you would want to focus on. Training principle number 7 is reversibility. And for this one, this is the improvement seen when your training will be lost if you stop training. So basically, if you've done a bunch of work to get yourself in good shape and you stop, then you can lose it very quickly if you don't maintain your fitness program. For example, if Lily does 100 push-ups a day for 3 months, she will get stronger. If she stops doing push-ups for 3 months, she will get weaker. It's pretty easy. So it's important to maintain a consistent plan when you're working out. I put 8 and 9 together. They kind of go hand in hand with one another, and that's the rest and recovery principles. So rest is the period of time allocated to recovery. Recovery is the time required to repair damage to the body caused by training or competition. So it's very important that there's a rest and recovery period built in because muscles need to be able to recover. Kind of the rule of thumb, there should be 48 hours in between. If you're into lifting weights, you need at least a day in between going to the gym to work the same muscle groups. And part of that depends on how strenuous your weight training program is. Adaptations, reacting to a hard training session by increasing the ability to cope with future grueling sessions. So you need a little time off, take some breaks, and then get right back after it. And sometimes people will find that when they take a little time off, that they come back actually a little bit stronger, feeling better because they've had that rest and recovery. Their body's had time to heal from the strength conditioning. So in this unit, there is a discussion question, which is activity 5.1.1. And for this activity, you're going to describe, it's a discussion question. So what you have to do for this is you got to describe a type of exercise program that you will participate in on a weekly basis. And then you're going to identify at least 3 of the training principles from this lesson that you will implement in your exercise program, and how or when you will implement each training principle. So that's the response that you will post. So basically incorporating at least 3 of the training principles. How are you going to use those? And then you also, as always with discussion questions, you'll need to respond to another student to earn full credit. So the example given down here below, that you could, something similar that you could do for the discussion question. And you need to use 1 to 2 complete sentences. So the example given, I will participate in a walking program in my neighborhood at the local park. I'll plan to walk with a friend whenever possible. So there's the program you plan to do. Identifying 3 training principles with 3 additional sentences. So number 1, the frequency of my walking program will be 3 times per week. The duration of my each time I will be for 1 hour. And I plan on walking at a brief pace and occasionally up steep hills, which is an example of intensity. So you need to explain in this assignment what are the 3 training principles that you will focus on in your training program. Next, there is an assignment in this unit, which is 5.1.2, which is the training principles. And this is a matching activity that you do. And all you have to do for this one is you have these drop down boxes right here that have the letters A through I, and you just have to match the letter that each word represents. So the definition's over on the right and the term is on the left, and you would just hit the drop down box. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to go over the answers to this. So this will be helpful for those of you that are watching this recording, and for you, Shirley, this will be helpful if you go and do this assignment right after we're done going over the answers. So number 1. Go ahead.
Actually, I have to, I just got to the part where they want you to write the thread.
Oh, okay. So you haven't got to this point yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. So when you get to it, this should be familiar then as we go over this.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with any of these? So some of these words that I just talked about, are you familiar with what overload is? So what we got to try to do is we got to try to match overload to one of these definitions here, A through I. I think you came in, I think I talked about overload right at the beginning, and you had just come in, so maybe you didn't catch what I was talking about, but I'll throw up the first answer for you. So the first one is H. So overload is the increased amount of stress you put on your body. So we're overloading our body. So specificity, we got to try to match up number 2 to one of the definitions. Any guesses?
I want to say it would be F, number of training sessions per week.
Okay. This one is actually B. The improvement will be seen in the area you work on. So with specificity, this one here is where you're being more specific about your workout based on what you are trying to accomplish from them. So the one that you just mentioned would fall under frequency, how often you exercise. So that one's going to be the number of training sessions per week.
Okay, so then 4 is going to be D, a break between activities during a workout.
All right, let's see if that's it. You're right. There we go. We'll cross that one out. Duration.
Length of an individual workout.
I think you're right on that one. There it is. G is gone. Reversibility.
Moving forward through a sequence of gradual, yeah, I want to say 6 is going to be A.
Okay. Moving forward through a sequence to gradually build up the body. All right. So this refers to the one about if you're working out. The example I gave is, let's say you're working out for 3 months, doing 100 push-ups a day, and then you don't do that for 3 months, you lose your strength. So that's what this one is referring to.
Okay.
So that would be more like this one here, C.
Okay.
So the improvement seen when you're training will be lost if you stop training. So that's reversibility. You lose, you go backwards, reverse if you stop training. All right, we got 3 more here. Recovery.
The time between workouts that allows your body to heal and adapt to the stress from your workout.
Very nice. Correct. And 2 more. Intensity.
The level of difficulty of your workout.
Awesome.
And then 9 is going to be the moving forward through the
sequence.
Yeah.
Yep. Boom. There they are. All right. So there's the answers to the matching. And you had, I think you got about 7 out of 9 of those correct. Nice job. There was 2 that I think we flipped around. So you have a good understanding of those. That's great. Okay, so that is activity 5.1.2, which is done after the discussion question 5.1.1. And that brings me to my last slide. Whoops, I gotta erase my junk here now. Okay, so 1-sentence summary. So in the chat box, what I'd like you to do is create a 1-sentence summary that explains the most important thing about our lesson today in the chat box. What is one important thing that in the short period of time that we were just together that you pulled from that lesson? You can type that in the chat box. What is one thing that explains the most important thing about our lesson today? Or since it's just you and I, you could just tell me, what is one thing from what I talked about that kind of resonated? I'll go back through some of the slides. So we basically, each of the slides covered these 9 different training principles. Are there any of these 9 that maybe was the first time you've ever heard of that? Maybe a new learning? Any of these terms that you didn't know before you came into the class tonight?
There were actually several of them that I didn't know before coming into the class tonight.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's new learning then.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is pretty much everything I